In the tape, Vandersloot talks about having sex with Holloway on the beach early in the morning of May 30th, 2005, but then he says something went horribly wrong. Vandersloot says he then dragged Holloway's body into the woods and called a friend with a boat. Vandersloot says he then went home and the friend dumped Holloway's body in the ocean.
All of this caught on high-tech secret surveillance that lasted for months. Take a listen.
Ja, iemand die gewoon echt een goede vriend van ons. Ja.
En ik sprak met hem en ik zeg hem van er is echt iets gebeurd. Ja. En dus hebben we gewoon haar genomen naar die boot.
Getild.
Ja, met z'n tweetjes even snel. En
niemand heeft je gezien toen hoor.
Out to the lines, Bonnie in North Dakota. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Nancy. I think you're wonderful. I just had a question.
Thank you very much. What's your question, dear?
The guy that, I think his name is Patrick, that taped him.
Yes.
Does he qualify for the reward?
What about it, Tracy Sabo? What about the reward?
We've not heard anything about the reward except for in the very initial stages. And to be honest, I'm not sure if the reward is still on the table by the family. That was the only entity that had put money out in the beginning.
Let's go out to Olivia in Colorado. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, Nancy. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, dear. What's your question?
I'd like to know if this confession was obtained legally.
Well, here's the deal, Olivia. The Constitution protects us from police, from prosecutors, from the so-called long arm of the state. But the Constitution typically will not, even in Aruba, protect you from blabbing to a journalist. So it was legally obtained. I know that there are other implications in your question, such as can you audio and videotape someone without their knowledge? Here in America, if you're on the telephone, you're governed by a one- or two-party consent rule. You can't just tape someone generally without their knowing it on the phone. That is a wire offense, the telephone being the wire. Let's go out to Frederick Pleitgen, CNN correspondent. I assume that in Aruba, if you're speaking in open or even in a car, you don't have a presumption of privacy. This is a journalist who is getting the information. I don't think there's going to be a legal problem.
Well, that's exactly what legal experts here are telling us as well. One thing that they are saying is they believe that these tapes, that this video can be used as evidence in courts in Aruba and also in the Netherlands. He could be tried either in Aruba or in the Netherlands. And one thing that a legal analyst told me, he said that Vandersloot now saying that he was lying to this person also might not count that much as well, because he says as a judge he'd be asking Vandersloot, you know what, you're telling me you were lying to this guy the whole time. How do I know you're not lying to the judge right now? So certainly he says this could be very, very strong evidence if in fact this case does go to court again, Nancy.
Out to Jossie Mansour. He is the managing director of Diario magazine. Jossie, it's great to talk to you again. He's joining us from Aruba. Jossie, what is the reaction there in Aruba to this bombshell?
Well, the people here are very excited. They see a possible solution in a relatively short time. They believe in the validity and legitimacy of this tape. It was done by a man that has a good reputation in the field.
A judge in Aruba has now reopened the case against Dutch student Joran Vandersloot in the death of Alabama teenager Natalie Holloway.
A Dutch crime reporter appears to have caught Vandersloot on tape claiming the 18-year-old high school student died suddenly while they were making out on a beach in Aruba. All of a sudden, what she did was like in a movie. She was shaking. It was awful, he says, and I prodded her. There was nothing. Vandersloot describes calling a friend he says was never questioned by police who had a boat nearby. Vandersloot says that they carried Natalie Holloway's body to the boat. He went out to the sea and then he threw her out like a rag, he said. Vandersloot is heard on the tape saying neither he nor his friend were certain Natalie Holloway was dead. But he seems to say it didn't bother him. I felt fine. I didn't lose a minute of sleep over it, he says.
Well, the case has been handed to Aruban authorities now on a silver platter. No, not by Aruban police or detectives. Oh, no. No. By an independent Dutch reporter who conducted months of secret surveillance on the judge's son, Jorn van der Sloot. During that time, after a lot of late nights smoking big fat doobies and planning a pot farm, van der Sloot admits to being with Natalee Holloway the night she died on the beach and having her body dumped in the choppy ocean waters. Out to the lines, let's go to Sandy in Georgia. Hi, Sandy.
Hey, Nancy, how are you?
I'm fine, dear. What's your question?
My question is, since he's already admitted that he had contact with her on the beach and supposedly she started having convulsions, could they have been caused by him drugging her, and possibly that's why he was afraid to call the law? And if so, could he still be charged for murder?
Out to Howard Oliver, who is joining us tonight, former deputy medical examiner. He's the forensic pathologist joining us out of L.A. Dr. Oliver, thank you for being with us. If van der Sloot is telling the truth about how Natalee died, and I'm not convinced that he is telling the truth about the mode of her death. I've seen a million defendants make up a story when they're caught on the scene of a murder about how the deceased died. If this is true, what could be the cause of death? Why would someone start shaking and then just die?
Good evening. Well, first of all, it sounds like she had a seizure. It could be epileptic seizure or a seizure from having...
Not an epileptic.
Okay, she could have had seizures from using the cocaine along with the alcohol. But, you know, under optimum conditions, I couldn't say she was dead. You know, certainly under these conditions, at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's dark, they've both been drinking. You know, I pronounced many people dead. And under good conditions, it would take me, with instrumentation, about 5 minutes to make that determination.
Doctor, you said with the cocaine and the alcohol. Now, I know there are witnesses that stated she drank, but where did you get the little detail about her using cocaine?
On a newspaper article that I read that stated that she had been using cocaine and alcohol.
According to Jorn van der Sloot?
No, newspaper article that I read.
I mean, the newspaper article had to get it from somewhere. I want to go back out to Art Harris, investigative journalist. To Dr. Oliver has just told us that under the best circumstances, Art, it takes a period of time to determine if someone is dead or not. Now, what's the likelihood that she suddenly goes into some kind of fit and just dies? A healthy, young teenager, never been sick a day in her life, suddenly just dies on the beach.
Well, Nancy, it raises questions. What happened at the bar at Carlos and Charlie's, and if somebody may have put something in her drink as is custom?
Oh, okay. Interesting. So why would she suddenly die an hour or 2 or 3 later, as opposed to right then when she consumed the pretend cocaine that you're dreaming up right now? I mean, why does she have a delayed reaction of 3 hours
I'm not dreaming
before
up this, Nancy.
she dies?
Nancy, I'm talking about the customary social habits of some of the bars down there where women do report that they have been given date rape drugs and other things, and the accumulation in the blood, as you know, the prosecutor.
I'm sorry, I thought you mentioned cocaine,
not
I saw that
account as well.
Gamma-hydroxybutyrate, GHB,
right.
The date rape drug. Yes. Now, my question is, back to Howard Oliver, Dr. Oliver, Art has a very good point. If GHB were used, don't you go into a sleep-like state pretty quickly after you take GHB?
Yes, that's correct. You do go into it pretty quickly.
So that's out, Art, because if she didn't go into this state until an hour or 2 later, after they coincidentally just had sex on the beach, according to Jorn van der Sloot, consensual sex, why would she suddenly pass out then? I mean, the timing doesn't work. So this whole thing about drugs and alcohol, in my mind, is something Jorn van der Sloot has fabricated along with much of his other story. Out to Judy in Florida. Hi, Judy.
Hi, thank you for taking my call, Nancy.
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone been able to confirm if Natalee Holloway had a history of seizures?
Interesting question. Let's go out to T.J. Ward. You're connected to the case. You've worked with the Holloway family. I've never heard a word about Natalee Holloway, and I've spoken to Beth Twitty many times, having any type of illness.
There's no family history of any seizures or anything. That we do know that she was very intoxicated when she left Carlos and Charlie's.
That much we know. but I think it's very rare to suddenly die from having too much to drink. Robbie Ludwig, weigh in.
Well, I also think that urine is perhaps covering up something. So maybe